So that is it. That is Elden Ring. I don't think they've announced that there is going to be any more DLC, so that was all you get. There may be patches that retroactively change things. I don't think there would be at this point, because we're playing this, middle of August, so it's been a couple of months. They might change, like, the stats of weapons and things like that, but otherwise, nah. Let's put the pose on. Let us go together. Like that. Just hold St. Trina's chin. So, thoughts. I'll do the final boss. That is probably the worst final boss of any DLC of a FromSoft game that I've ever played. I was trying to think of this last time, like, Demon Souls doesn't have DLC, so obviously it doesn't count. Dark Souls 1 has Manus, and Manus is actually not bad, I don't think. I don't remember playing against Manus. I think I have played Dark Souls Remastered, but I don't think I actually did the whole thing. And Manus, from what I remember of when Pimmsy played, is manageable. Like, he has his big swings, and you can tank the hits, and he has his opportunities to punish him. So, Manus, okay. Dark Souls 2, the final bosses of those, it's all of the kings. So the Iron King, I don't remember being particularly great, but Ivory King is probably one of the best final bosses of the DLCs. And that's partially because summons make it better. And I said that at one of the attempts of this is that summons for a boss fight should not make the boss harder. Like, I did that with the Mimic, and the Mimic is just kind of another me. If I had Ansbach or Tiolier in that fight, it would have been a lot harder, and it was a lot harder when I first attempted it. And that doesn't make sense. It seems like when they increased the health of Radahn, they increased it by way too much, because Ansbach and Tiolier are not actually that good at fighting Radahn, just because of the size of him and being able to get hit by his attacks. They don't have shields, so they can't block it, you know? Freya would have been way better in the fight, because she'd be able to block those attacks. Bloodborne, Orphan of Kos. So, the thing is that Orphan of Kos is a difficult fight, because he is aggressive, and that's right. He's more annoying than he is hard. He's more annoying than he is tedious. And it's partially not his fault. Not the fault of the Orphan of Kos itself. It's more about the game around him. So, having to spend time getting more blood vials and more bullets if you fail to kill him on an attempt. I mean, that's for the entire game of Bloodborne, when they have the system of just use a reusable flask, and that'll be fine. But I think they felt they needed to balance the parry system with bullets, and then they did the same with the health. But yeah, Orphan of Kos is difficult. And, you know, similar kind of situation with Radahn. He has lots of quick attacks with not much cooldown on them. And then, obviously, you learn the moveset, you find out what's punishable and what's not. But also, it's just the sound effects make it just ear-screechingly difficult to pay attention to what's going on. I did see, in fact, that the sound effects of Orphan of Kos are kind of stock sound effects, similar to Pizza Tower, just with a different pitch. But yeah, Orphan of Kos is okay. Dark Souls 3. So, Frida, really good fight. 3 phases is kind of like, that's kind of bullshit, but at the same time, you can get through Frida. Like, Frida has nonsense to the fight, but you can learn through the nonsense. As in, she turns invisible in her first phase, but you can see her footprints, and then you can figure out where she is and, you know, swing and take her out of it. Then you've got 2 enemies to focus on. So you've got, obviously it's the Ornstein and Smough comparison, but Father, Ariandel, and then Frida as a side thing. Frida does healing of Ariandel, and then he's the big one that takes up the entire arena. And that's fine, because you can summon in Gale for that part. And then you've got Black Flame Frida, who again is like, I think it's more the being taken aback by the fact that Frida had 3 phases, but the Black Flame stuff isn't actually too bad, because I think you can, similar to this situation, you can block the hits, but then you take damage through your shield if you don't have the highest reduction for that specific type of damage. So Frida, not too bad. And then obviously Slave Knight Gale. Again, another 3-phase boss fight, although it's not technically like the same kind of 3 phases. It's more like a mid-phase. And yeah, so he's got lots of things going on. Like, he has the Rings of Light, he has the multi-fire repeater crossbow, and he has his giant, like, slams on the floor, which is the Artorias moveset, which Radahn has here as well. You know, there's flying, the red main slash. But he's okay as well after a while. And yeah, so again, the other thing is because Frida is human-sized, Ariandel is giant human-sized, and Gale's kind of in between. You get the opportunity to hit him a lot. Sekiro, again, doesn't have DLC, but I'm trying to compare him to, like, Demon of Hatred. That took a long time when I played. But that's, again, just because of the size of Demon of Hatred and the size of the attacks rather than, like, anything else there. And then we have this one, Radahn. So, first phase, fine. I can block the hits, I can avoid the hits. Surprisingly enough, rolling to the left rather than the right did actually help out quite a bit. Specifically for the screwdriver that he starts off with. And yeah, like, first phase is actually okay. I think the more annoying thing is the fact that he goes into his second phase early. Like, if he went into his second phase at 50%, it probably wouldn't be that bad. It wouldn't feel like, oh, I'm, you know, banging my head against this boss over and over again and not getting anywhere, because he gets to that point after a third of the fight rather than halfway through. Because when you get to halfway through a fight, you feel like you're actually making progress. And then the second phase of the fight is just... I think partly I was trying to roll out of too much when my build is not specifically made for it. Like, the brass shield has been the MVP shield for the entire playthrough, and it's actually good enough to block everything because I've upgraded it to plus 25, and I can take little amounts of damage with the Holy Braid negation as well, which, you know, if you hadn't found that would be, you know, killer. And then, yeah, it's just... I've seen people complain that there's a lot of visual clutter on the screen, and I've seen people say that they can't see what's going on, and I agree. It's like, at some points it's just an entire screen filled with light, and then you can't see the next swing that he's going to do. So you're kind of just like rolling blindly. And then it's just like every single attack he does, every like swing he has, is just takes so long to block, and then you've got no time to do anything afterwards. Like, I was trying to do it of block, 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 get a single swing, and that's all you get. And it's just, it feels bad to do that. It feels very passive. It feels like there's no player agency. I'd rather the fight take a lot less time and he have way less health and I die just as quickly, you know? But because of the way that shields work in this game, I don't think they're ever going to do that. That's why they have the Sekiro system of you can parry everything, but if you try and block it, you're going to get posture broken. And then the Bloodborne system of parry everything, otherwise you don't get an opportunity to get through because you don't actually have a shield there. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on the boss. So it's kind of a disappointing end to the DLC, because I had a lot of fun with this, actually. You know, there's some people saying that some areas are too huge for what they are. Like, Jagged Peak, I mean, it makes sense that this is empty because it's all mountainous, so I don't think you ever expect to do this. Abyssal Woods is basically, there's nothing there. It's not meant to be replayed. It's more meant for the feeling of, there's enemies that I can't beat in here, and I have to run past them, and there's no going back. But when people have figured out, oh, you can actually parry them and then get rid of them permanently, then it's fine. The Finger Ruins are huge, and there's nothing here. Like, there's the Ashes and the Duplicator here, and then there's nothing else here. Just the bell. So it's just like a run to get there and then go back. I didn't really like the Furnace Golems that much. The Furnace Golems are okay as, like, walking hazards, but they felt like health sinks. And I know you have to, like, break them down and get their critical weak point, but it's like, it's not great. Skater Tree Avatar, no, pretty good, you know? It's like a sunflower boss, that was unique. I think the fact that I got through the boss fairly quickly has led me to believe that, you know, it's not as bad as it could have been. I've seen people complain about Commander Gaius, and I kind of agree with some of it. Again, I used summons to make the boss fight easier, and learning to stay close to his sword arm makes that a lot better. Apparently this goes nowhere. There's nothing with this. Like, I can't interact with this, then I thought this would be important, and it's not. And that's just a bit strange. You wouldn't expect a DLC to have unfinished concepts in it, because the whole point is that it's a DLC. It's like, it's always after. Same thing with this, Ancient Ruins of Ra. There's nothing on top and there's no way to get here, and this kind of implies that you can get here. The catacombs are alright. The mausoleums are pretty good. So I've seen that the Darklight Catacombs is actually a Dark Souls 2 reference. You actually fight Rakshasa, is on a long night kind of thing. The mausoleum for this knight here, the Knight of Solitude, the Dancer of Rana, those are pretty good. I like those. Enir Limb was actually kind of empty. I wasn't expecting that. Like, I thought it would be the same size as Bellarat in some ways. But then I think that's also me expecting, like, this to be the same size as Stormvale or Raya Lucaria Academy. See, I remember the name now after looking it up. But yeah, it's nice. It's like, if you were to have a condensed experience of Elden Ring, this kind of is what would line up with it. I don't remember there being any volcano stuff specifically, because obviously there's volcano mana. But otherwise, you kind of get the same experience as in the main game as this. So I'm surprised they didn't, like, release it as its own mini thing. You know, like Xenoblade 2 has a Horn of the Golden Country, and then there's Future Redeemed in Xenoblade 3 and so on. But yeah, just Promised Consort Radahn being the cap of the end, supposed to cap off the DLC, and just like leaves a bit of a sour taste in the mouth, because it's just I think they got stuck on making the fight more difficult than fun, and you don't want to get into that situation. Boss fights, I guess it's because it's the final boss fight of Elden Ring and they want to make a lasting impression, but the lasting impression wasn't fun. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Elden Ring. I do like the DLC expansion. It's more Elden Ring, and that was the best game of 2022. And yeah, there's some flaws to it, but like Rellana's cool, Messmer's cool. In actual fact, I do think the DLC would have been better if you actually fought Leda as the final boss. It would require changing things in terms of Freya Ansbach and saying, oh, Radahn is getting brought back by Miquella, which doesn't really make sense to me. Like, this whole, will you promise to be my consort? I want to be a consort. I want to be a god. And there's nothing in the main game really alluding to it. Makes me feel like having Miquella be Leda's influence and then doing that would have been better, in my opinion. But yeah, I also think they kind of got stuck on... everyone thinks that Star-Scourge Radahn is the coolest character in Elden Ring, which he is, because of the whole, you know, I held back the stars kind of thing. I stopped my sister's fate from coming to pass because I literally held it back. And then you've got the idea of Astel, Natural Born of the Void, the Falling Star Beast. Meta in the DLC is another thing, is like, has implications for the main game of where the greater will comes from and how it applies to the two fingers, and the fact that Meta is made up of fingers, the mother of fingers, and the two fingers are kind of like trying to fulfill the outer god's wills and things like that. But yeah, this is all kind of, I know this is kind of rambling, but yeah, it's just that is the end of the game. So yeah, overall, I would recommend getting the DLC, because if nothing else, you get like cool armor sets, you get cool weapons. The difference in lore, I'm like, eh. But I've always found From Software lore and kind of the general plot lines to be difficult to follow. Like Bloodborne's cool because of the twist, right? It's gothic horror and then it becomes cosmic horror, whereas here it's all fantasy mixed in with the cosmic stuff, and I do like that. But yeah, so it just depends on which one you played first, I guess. Like, if you played Elden Ring first and you got like really into the storyline and played Bloodborne after, you'd be like, oh, it's just more of that. But also, the size of Elden Ring kind of plays against it in some ways, because the game is so huge, people aren't really going to remember it, you know? Remember the general plotline. You kind of rely on the fact of other people putting the pieces together, reading up on the wiki, reading up on all the item descriptions, and trying to kind of lay out the narrative for you to follow. So, and also, I should also point out, I've never actually watched the DLC trailers, other than the announcement one. So I know there's probably like some story-related stuff in there that makes sense if you watch it. So, yeah, that is it. That is me. I am done with Elden Ring. I did say that last time, but because we finished DLC, I am officially done with Elden Ring.